Hi, everyone. It's Amanda Rieger Green. Welcome to Soul Sessions and Happy New Year. Welcome to 2025. This year is epic. I am here for it. Today, we're going to do the January forecast, a little bit of an intro into 2025. I'm going to talk about the numerology and the astrology, giving you a bit of a roadmap so you can really harness the energy of January. We are in a 9 year. Welcome to the 9. I know you probably didn't wake up this morning and say, oh, it's such a 9 year, but you'll start to feel it because it's so not the 8. But we are in a one universal month in numerology. And if you haven't gotten the guidebook, the Astro Numero guidebook, get it. The link will be in the show notes in this podcast. I am so excited about it. It gives you all of the information you need. It's got all the astrology, the numerology, how those codes work together, crystal recommendations, journal prompts, reflections, major transit. It's well done. I poured my heart and soul into it. But what I want you to know about the guidebook is it's what I personally do and have done for about 12 years for myself. So I'm basically giving you the roadmap that I follow for myself. And of course, I go deeper because I know more astrology and numerology, but I'm giving you the toolkit and it's month over month. So it breaks it down, it's bite size, it gives you the trigger words and the energies and the vibes, and you'll be able to follow it and also find your own story within it and where you can harness your gifts, your power, your talents, your resourcefulness. And this is a year of resourcefulness from a place of sovereignty, from your highest character. So it asks us to dig deep. And January starts off that way. First thing I want to mention, I want to go back just a little bit into December. And I didn't really touch on this. Hannah and I, in the Astrology of 2025 episode, talked about Jupiter square Saturn. Jupiter square Saturn happened in August. The very first pass was in August of 2024, August 19th. The second one was on Christmas Eve, December 24th. And the next one is June 15th. When Jupiter squares Saturn, it literally, Jupiter is about expansion and growth and faith and over the top energy, whereas Saturn is about restriction, restraint, self control, karma, time, energy, and taking responsibility. But ultimately, Jupiter is about the expansion of faith. It connects with justice and fairness. And Saturn says, how do you take responsibility for yourself? When those planets square, it creates a tension. It's a call to action. So whatever was going on for you, go back to August of 2024 and then think about Christmas time, the solstice, the 24th, 25th on into right now, January 1st. Can you draw any correlations of lessons learned, things that are being revisited or revised where you're taking your own agency back? You're becoming more empowered. You're being truer to your voice. It may be difficult and challenging, but if you don't heed that call, something still feels unsettled within you. And on the world stage, this plays out bigger. Hannah and I talked about that in our discussion, so I won't go into too much depth. But there's a great video by Pam Gregory where she talks about Jupiter square Saturn and she refers back, and we will link that in the show notes. She talks about the Great Conjunction, which is when Jupiter and Saturn came together around the solstice of 2020, just before the pandemic. And she outlines the energies, the things to look for, and where we're growing. So I encourage you to listen to that and then draw your personal correlations. It's kind of like the square is a checkpoint. So the conjunction happened between Jupiter and Saturn in 2020. And basically, the square says, what have you done since that time? And how much progress have you made personally? Or how much progress have we made on the world stage? So that's a really good place to start at the beginning of the year in reflecting back to 2020 and then reflecting a little bit over last year for yourself and what is shifting, where you're taking personal agency, reclaiming your sovereignty so you can get your orientation a little bit more clarified as we begin to traverse and move into 2025. So we are in a 1 month in numerology, a 9 year in a 1 month. The one thing I want to emphasize around that in numerology, the number 19, 1 and 9, it's a karmic number. What does that mean? If in numerology, the 1 is about beginnings, the 9 is about endings. So it's like an eclipse energy. It's beginnings and endings, alpha and omega. It has this cyclical energy, starting and stopping, starting a new path, yet shedding the old. So this month is very much about pioneering a new path, claiming your individuality. What can I do? Where do I have power? Where do I have control and authority? And what am I going to do about it? How am I going to take responsibility? And what do I need to let go of, release, surrender, or shed in order to move forward with clarity, with sovereignty, with a sense of individuality? How can I be true to myself? So the Jupiter Saturn square, to me, it's a beautiful dialogue between the astrology and the numerology. Things to remember about the energy of the one. The one is very I oriented. I'm going to do this. I'm going to get this done. And I don't need anybody's help. I got it. That's a great thing. But the 9 is more inclusive. The 9 also says, hey, are you stepping back and zooming out and looking at the bigger picture? So while January can always be a bit disorienting because the energy is shifting, it's a new year, we've got the fog of the holidays, all of the seasonal energy and exhaustion that comes with the winter time in the Northern Hemisphere. Yes, we feel a little tired. We're sometimes feel a false sense of urgency or what do I do next? Whatever you're feeling, if you're feeling some disorientation or confusion, just get down and write out an outline. This year, in the next few months, what do I want to accomplish? What can I do to create greater and fill in your blank? Happiness, health, well being, peace, love, abundance, whatever your keywords are for the year. And this is the time to start to orient and say, what are the couple of words and that I want to call in this year? And I encourage you, whatever words come to you as you start to journal, maybe you've already been contemplating those intentions and planting those seeds. But whatever words you want to attune to and frequencies you want to align with, make them expansive. The reason I use the word sovereignty, I use agency some, but agency to me feels very three-dimensional. It feels very linear. There's something very masculine to that word, and I love it because I wanna have agency and authority over myself. But when I say sovereignty, the actual frequency and vibration of those words are very different, and that stuff is where I'm like, "Wait a minute. I want sovereignty because there's something expansive, five-dimensional, heart-centered, mystical about that word." And so, like, that's the word I want. So, as you think about the words that start to flow from your soul as they align with your goals and your aims, yes, get some reachable words, but also pick some words that feel broad and roomy and in a frequency in which that is higher that you would like to attune to. So think about it that way. And remember, with the energy of the 9, it's a good time to go back and listen to the podcast where I talk about the 9 universal year in numerology. And I will be doing more episodes on the 9 because we'll dive in. And that's also what the guidebook, the Astro Numerology guidebook, is for. But the 9, remember, is about really closing a chapter. It's closing out a stage and a phase of life. So anything that is not intended to be on your path in the next 10 years is going to be taken away or detoxed or leave your life. So this is one of those seasons and cycles of life, and I laugh a little bit when I say this, anything that is removed or decluttered or leaves your life, whether it's a job, a relationship, a paycheck, a family member, and I'm not being doomsday about death and loss here, and I'm not making light of that either. But any loss that you experience, there is a time and a season, and it may be leaving your life so something new can be created. And what is the legacy of what has left your life? How can you honor either the relationship, the experience, the job? What did it gift you? What did it teach you? How did it grow you? And how is it orienting you so you can move forward in this greater sense of yourself? On January 2nd, Venus enters Pisces. And this is interesting because Venus will retrograde in 2025. And like Mars is still retrograde. But like Mars, Venus doesn't retrograde that often. But when Venus retrograde, a lot of people freak out because Venus is about love and relationships, but it's not retrograde yet. However, when it retrogrades, it will retrograde in Aries and then back up into Pisces. So as Venus moves through Pisces, which Venus is at home in Pisces, it does not rule Pisces, but Venus is like the lower octave of Neptune. Neptune rules Pisces. So there's this element of love and sentimentality and connection and nurture. There's creativity with Venus in Pisces, a sensuality, a romance. Venus in Pisces is romantic. So as Venus is in Pisces, I kind of love that at the beginning of the year, especially with the sun in Capricorn, which isn't super romantic. Like that Capricorn energy is more about let's be practical, then we can get down to the romance. And Venus in Pisces is like, no, romance now. So anything that feels romantic to you, and I don't necessarily mean just intimate and sexual, that kind of romance. I mean, I'm a Libra, so I love the poetry and the romance of life. Beauty is romantic to me. A good romantic comedy is, romantic to me. What does the romance of life look like to you, and how do you celebrate that? One of the things I'll go back to in my discussion with Hannah and our astrology of 2025, we talked about simplifying and going within and finding the simple pleasures in life. And so Venus in Pisces gives us a little bit of beauty and romance. So incorporate that into your intentions and your 2025 because I think it sets the stage in some beautiful ways. On January 6th, Mars retrograde will back up into Cancer. Totally different game than the last handful of weeks where Mars has been retrograding in Leo. I did a whole episode on Mars retrograde and its transits through Leo and Cancer. As it moves into Cancer, it is about a reprogramming and rewiring of our emotions, our emotional intelligence. And I think Mars will be retrograde until February 23rd. And let me tell you something, Mars in Cancer is not comfortable. So you likely will feel more emotionally sensitive, psychically sensitive, intuitive, and it may feel overwhelming. Your senses may be overwhelmed. You may feel defensive, like you're capsizing under emotional or energetic pressure. If you're feeling that, you're feeling the energy of what is being rewired and asked of us to get still, to get quiet, to do things that regulate your nervous system so you don't always buy into the high highs and the low lows of your emotions. Find ways to nourish your neurological system to create calm and peace and ease. And one of my go-tos, and I've shared this before, is not only to breathe, but really to put my hand on my sternum or massage under my clavicles or roll my shoulders back and open up my heart space and breathe. That is a great technique. Go outside with your bare feet on the ground, even if it's freezing cold, and just ground. Let the sunlight, if the sun is shining, allow it to hit your face so you can regulate the nervous system. And there are multiple ways to do that, but any way that you can find to work on soothing and regulating your nervous system, whether it's acupuncture or some kind of supplementation, I would encourage you to utilize simple ways of really working on your emotions and your inner regulatory, your endocrine system, and the nervous system. January 8th, Mercury enters Capricorn. So the sun will be in Capricorn and Mercury in Capricorn. I tell you what, this to me is like get stuff done energy. And it's funny because Mars is retrograde, which kind of depletes a little bit of energy sometimes. But Mercury, once it's in Capricorn, it really says, where am I going to take action? What's my plan for the future? How do I effectively start to take action around that? So to me, January 8th, January 9th, that's when I'm going to set my intentions for the year because my mind is going to be working practically. I'll do my dreamy journaling, going within the first handful of days of the year. And then once Mercury enters Capricorn, I know that my brain will start to think a little bit differently and say, okay, Amanda, here are the things you've been dreaming up and the things you've been reaching towards and the idealism you have. Because I think you all can tell I'm a total idealist. I am very practical. I got some Capricorn in my chart, as we all do. I can be very practical and resourceful and logical, but I am an idealist at heart. And I believe in the evolution of humanity and us moving into this golden age of higher consciousness. Do I know how we're going to get there? No, but I know that I'm on track for that, that I believe in that. But what Mercury and Capricorn will help us to do is to get down to how do we start to practically take action. So I love that boost of energy after the first of the year. The other thing that Hannah and I talked about that happens on January 11th is the nodal axis of the moon, the north and south node, shift into Pisces and Virgo. They move out of Aries and Libra into Pisces and Virgo. Hannah and I talked about that a little bit. I will talk about that more in upcoming episodes. But Pisces and Virgo is the axis of health and wellness. And it is literally our physical body, our physical health, our day-to-day routines. Virgo, where the south node will be, and Pisces, our spiritual and psycho-spiritual health, our connection to the divine, and how we also are able to connect that in our physical bodies. Virgo, south node. I will get into that more in detail, but know that that happens on the 11th. And one thing I want to say about the nodal axis of the moon are not like the north and south poles of the moon. They are these astronomical points that are calculated that shift, and it has to do with the axis of the moon and the astronomy. But the nodal axis the north node denotes the direction of the collective, and the south node denotes what we are healing and where we have been. So the north node says this is the direction we're going, and the south node says this is what we're leaving behind. So the direction we are going is Piscean, in terms of what we're working on. And what Hannah said is Saturn has already been working us because it's been transiting through Pisces. So has Neptune. So this is like a swan song of that energy as the north node moves into Pisces for the next 18 months. As a collective, we are becoming more psychic, more spiritual, more evolved, moving into higher collective consciousness, fourth dimensional and fifth dimensional energy. And the south node says, how do we do this practically without needing to be perfect and busy for the sake of busy? Are our routines supporting our mind, body, spirit health? That is probably the most accessible question I can pose in order to think about that. Like I said, I'll do more episodes on the north and the south node and how you can use those practically and start to think about them for yourself. But if you don't have your natal chart, I would definitely figure out where 29 degrees of Pisces is. That's where the north node will be, and 29 degrees of Virgo is in your natal chart, in your house system. So you can see what areas in your life it is touching and evolving within you, how it is growing you and healing you. It's very helpful when you have that data and you can start to connect the dots. It activates something kind of amazing, and then you can correlate it and track it and use it, like use it to the best of your ability. And I'm laughing a little bit when I say this because I've said it before, but JP Morgan Chase. There's a famous quote from JP Morgan, and he says, if you want to be a millionaire, you get a master's degree. If you want to be a billionaire, you get an astrologer. And astrologers have been present for, people in high political power, presidencies, kings and queens. And I tell you what else, in med school, before kind of big pharma takeover, before chiropractics was removed, before allopathic medicine came in, astrology and astronomy were part of the medical curriculum. Things like that have been removed. There were astrologers and people on staffs in courts and kingdoms and in different areas where it's like that is coming back online and with validation and scientific evidence. So we are in this new age and new era that is coming back online with science to back it up. So to me, this is so exciting. This is where I'm like, yes, we're in a new time. Some things are being proven. There's going to be facts behind all of our mysticism and mystery and all these things that we believe in. On January 13th, we have a full moon in Cancer. And if you remember, and I talked about this in the energy forecast in December of 2024, we closed out 2024 with a new moon in Capricorn on December 30th. There was a new moon in Capricorn, December 30th. And our first lunation of the year, significant lunation, is the full moon in Cancer on January 13th. That's at 24 degrees of Cancer at 5:27 p.m. Eastern Time. Whenever we have a Cancer full moon, not only is Mars now retrograde in Cancer, so it's kind of heightened or personified, we've got the north node of the moon now in a water sign. Saturn is still in Pisces. Neptune is in Pisces. It's a lot of water, a lot of psychic energy, a lot of emotional energy. A full moon in Cancer is asking us to really balance our inner comfort with our outer expression. Do my insides match my outsides? Capricorn is about our reputation, our destiny, our leadership, our agency, if you want to say that, in the world. And Cancer is about the deep psychology, where our heart is. It's the schmaltzy stuff, right? It's nurture, it's wisdom, it's intuition, it's mothering and caregiving and cooking a good meal and feeding your family and friends. It's also this element of home is where the heart is. Or, when do I feel the most comfortable in my own skin? And the polarity of that full moon says, am I authentically expressing that through my actions, my relationships, and out in the world? And how do I balance that polarity? This is a wonderful full moon to do something either in your home and your family or your close community, to do something that creates comfort, safety, security, nurture, and feels intimate. It's about intimacy. And I think 2025 is so interesting because the 9 is a very humanitarian energy, but there's a personal touch to it, an element of every conversation matters, every connection matters intimately, deeply, truly. And yet at the same time, we have all of these outer planets shifting where we have air energy, which is fast and going and doing, and sometimes a little bit surface level. And with Pluto in Aquarius can be very emotionally detached. Oh, that doesn't affect me. Oh, there's climate change. Oh, it's okay. I'll just throw my, Diet Coke out on the street. I think I said this not too long ago, but I saw somebody throw a Coke can out of their car window. And I just was like, do people still do that? And it made me so mad. And then I thought, well, maybe I should turn around and pick it up. And then I didn't turn around and pick it up. But it's like, where can you truly find personal connection and intimacy in all of your actions and interactions? So be intentional on this full moon. And I love that the first lunation of the year is actually a full moon rather than a new moon because it kind of correlates with the 9 year of detox something, shed something that is maybe emotionally, energetically not supporting your happiness, your heart, your sense of authenticity, safety, and well-being. Think about it that way. January 19th, the sun enters Aquarius. So it's like, here comes Aquarian energy. Aquarius is so radical and revolutionary and futuristic and outside of the box. I encourage you, as the sun shifts into Aquarius, to really think about how you are the revolutionary of your own life, your own environment. So, not only the leader of your own life, but how are you a revolutionary? How are you doing things differently? How are you going to break the glass ceiling of your life this year? And is it going to be hard? Maybe. But what do you really believe in? Where is your soul calling you that if you deny it, you feel like you will be denying your soul something? So just use that Aquarian energy. See how you feel it coming in as the sun shifts. January 27th, Mercury will join the sun in Aquarius. So it'll help you kind of click things cognitively on thinking more futuristically and outside the box. What I will do with this energy, I said that I would probably, after setting some of my January intentions, my 2025 intentions, on the 8th, when Mercury entered Capricorn, I would write out a roadmap or a plan of action around the 8th or the 9th once Mercury was in Capricorn. Well, on the 27th or 28th or 29th, as Mercury gets a little traction in Aquarius, I'll start looking at my roadmap or plan of action and I'll think, how can I break the glass ceiling on that? How can I do it a little differently? How can I revolutionize this plan of action? That's the way that I use the energy. I take one sign and I build on the other. And it's so much fun because you got the sun there and Mercury there. Mercury's working the mind and the sun is working your vitality and you use it. It's kind of mind blowing how it can work in your favor. And it adds so much flavor to your life, your favor and your flavor. Use it or lose it. January 29th, we close out the month with a new moon in Aquarius. And if there is a new moon this year to be the revolutionary and the rebel of your life, this is the new moon to plant remarkable revolutionary seeds for a more freeing and harmonious future. I will talk more about this new moon a little bit in later episodes of the podcast. I might do a special episode because by the time we get to the end of January, I think everybody's going to be thirsty for more information and more knowledge and more direction. So I'll talk more about that new moon. But that new moon does occur curiously at 9 degrees of Aquarius on January 29th. So I love the Astro Numero code right there. And we close the month out on January 30th with Uranus stationing direct at 23 degrees of Taurus. We will feel that station a week or so before it happens. And when Uranus, which rules Aquarius, starts to stand still in the sky, and it's doing it at the same time the sun has moved into Aquarius, Pluto is there and Mercury is there. That's when insights, lightning strikes, dramatic things happen there. And because it's in Taurus, we might see some natural disaster type stuff, some plate tectonics, some earthquakes. Who knows what could happen on the world stage, but lightning can strike. It can strike within you intuitively, but also things can be disruptive. So know that the end of the month and into February, there are plot twists. Things happen that may seem or be very drastic, earth shattering, dramatic. Again, I don't say any of this to create fear. I say it to create awareness. So okay, you step back, you look at the bigger picture, you assess your own beliefs, your own facts, you jump into your own sovereignty in order to be decisive and responsive versus fear based and reactive. I am here for this. I'm like, yes, Uranus, station direct in Taurus, because Uranus will move later into the year into Gemini and it changes the game. So as it's finishing up its time in Taurus, which is really about this reorientation of our inner stability, our material resources, what we believe about money and finances. And even though Uranus isn't so much about beliefs, it's about radical shifts. in the way that we approach or see money, material resources, and how resourceful we are. And it's funny because for myself, I've really been thinking about, Amanda, are you being resourceful? I think of myself as a pretty on my feet kind of gal. I have a lot of get up and go. I am resourceful, but I have been rewiring my resourcefulness. Amanda, are you going for the low hanging fruit? Or are you reaching for the pie in the sky? And so I've been being more practical in my resourcefulness while still dreaming and idealizing and using my mystical gifts, but I have been utilizing my resources better. And to me, Uranus has helped me in Taurus in that area. Some of it has to do with where it falls in my chart and some other transits that are going on. But the question I would pose to you in and around that time is, how effectively do you utilize your resources internally, your talents and gifts, and your material resources? And does your budget feel comfortable and balanced, whether it is an intangible budget or a tangible one? This month is an interesting month to me because it has a lot of forward momentum and a lot of reflective energy. So it's got a little bit of polarity to it, which is reorienting us. To me, there will be a lot more traction for 2025 as we hit March and April. There's like reorientation happening in January, February, and into March. And then after like kind of mid-March, something starts to shift. We're having a lot of internal psychological and spiritual work done on us. Take time, be patient with yourself, be tender, be gentle, but also be true and take yourself seriously. Take your gifts seriously. Take your abilities and talents seriously, because if you don't take them seriously, no one else will. So believe in yourself and use your gifts and your talents resourcefully and with an open and loving heart. Thank you all for joining me. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2025. Let's make it mythic. Be well, everybody.